In today's video, we'll dive into the topic of diastasis recti with two powerhouse experts, myself, Becky Choi, drawing in from hands-on experiences working with over 500 moms one-on-one on their diastasis recti, as well as my own severe diastasis recti journey, postpartum journey. And joining me in the video is Munira Hudani, who is a dedicated physical therapist specializing in diastasis recti, and she has a robust background of science and research. And so combining with our expertise, we'll unravel the symptoms of diastasis recti, get into a science-backed research exercises that actually make a real difference in your healing journey. And so let's get you started and feeling strong and great and have strength. Let's dive right into the video. Welcome to another episode of the Becky Choi's podcast shows. You might be looking at this, watching this through videos on YouTube. Welcome. You're seeing this lovely lady here. Her name is Munira Hudani. And if you don't know who is Munira Hudani is, she is a women's health physical therapist. She is one of my very first mentor in diastasis recti. I loved her post on Instagram when I first starting out my own journey and also learning about my diastasis. I literally read every single Munira's post on her Instagram, and that really drew me interest. Oh my gosh, like everything else I read out elsewhere were just same thing over and over again. But when I saw it in Munira's perspective, oh my God, it's starting to click with me. I understand now why I was doing these certain things that helped or it didn't help. So Munira was really great. And she and then I ended up meeting her in person when she was still living here in Toronto. That was really cool. I was probably 4 years ago, Munira. But
yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for coming into the shows. I wanted to dive right deep into diastasis recti with you because you're an expert in it. I love that you have that science research approach into diastasis recti. For me, it's all comes from experience of my own journey, experience with helping over a few hundred moms, specifically on diastasis recti now. But combining us two together, we are a powerhouse here. And I'm so excited just to have you here. And let's go deeper. Okay, let's get into it. And well, thank you so much for coming here, Munira.
Well, Becky, as I mentioned before the call, I'm just so honored that you even thought of me to have on your podcast. So thank you.
Of course.
I am delighted to be here and talk about diastasis.
Yes. Well, I mean, I remember still first time I think I met you probably maybe when I was 1 year postpartum. And I remember talking to you and oh my God, maybe I need to bring my baby with me. And then you're like, okay, no problem. I'm going to have something to exercise or something for your baby. I'll check on your diastasis and whatnot. So I ended up didn't have my baby with me. I don't know if you remember, I was 1 hour late.
Oh, yes, I do. You had a hard time getting, and I wasn't close by. You were in the opposite end of the city, I believe. And
that's right. But what happened was because I was so excited to go out by myself for the first time. It was my first time going out by myself without having my baby with me. And I was like, I'm not going to drive. You're in the middle of the city. I'm just going to take my subway. I'm going to get back onto it. I used to take subway all the time, but it ended up the subway was some malfunction or something. I have to get off halfway and then I have to try to find a bus to go to where you are. Oh, and I was running. Oh my God, please don't leave.
Oh, I don't remember all of that. And man, I'm so glad you told me that. I had no idea that you went through such a hassle to get to me. Wow.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that was a while ago.
I'm glad you made it
in. Time flies. So Munira, I'm not going to go too much into what is diastasis and all of that, because I believe my audience know by now, okay, how to check it at least kind of thing. But maybe without going into too much nitty-gritty into what it is, but can you just tell us the symptom, other than a cell check, other than an ultrasound, the symptom of having diastasis?
Yeah, so symptoms of diastasis, that is a very interesting, I guess, discussion and topic because like you said, I do often come from a research background. And so what we typically have associated with diastasis from research has actually been debunked. A lot of the stuff has been debunked over time. So what we thought were symptoms of diastasis, like having low back pain, having pelvic floor issues. Those two in particular, we seem to associate them with diastasis, but for some reason in research, actually, it hasn't been shown that.
That's right. I think I noticed that too from the researchers. Yeah.
Yeah. However, one thing with the research is they tend not to look at people with more significant or larger diastases or more significant issues postpartum with their abdomen. So if they were to start really focusing in on those people, I would be surprised if there weren't associations between having that and having low back pain and additional pelvic floor conditions. So there are symptoms there that we absolutely hear in working with people, right? So we definitely know that back pain is one of them, whether it's just lifting their kid and having pain with that, or just this kind of ongoing discomfort in the back, or a sense or feeling of just the feeling of being unstable, the feeling of being weak, just not having that support there in the center. That's often, what we hear as well. And then in terms of like presentations, like what do we often see physically with these people? It's all over the map. We can see someone that has very little protrusion or distension in their abdomen, but they do have a noticeably wider midline. And we can see on the other end of the spectrum, someone who has a significantly rounded abdomen from pregnancy and has a wider linea alba. And then somewhere in between, you can also have an individual that has an abdominal wall that is further out, but they don't have too much of a gap in the midline. So in terms of presentations, we can see everything.
Yeah.
And some of it has to do with the midline widening and some of it doesn't. And then we kind of have to go in and tease out, okay, what actually is the diastasis part of this? And what is it? What is everything else that's contributing to this?
Everything else contributing to that. Yeah, that's a great one.
Because it could be excess skin. It could be loose and stretched out skin. It could be additional weight gain from pregnancy.
Right.
It could be an area of a C-section shelf that is contributing to the appearance of it. It could be postural in how the person is standing that makes it look like it's sort of coming out more than if they were standing differently. So
that's right.
There's a lot of factors, and it could be digestive issues, bloating. So the symptoms of diastasis are varied. The presentations are also varied. And I think that's why it always helps to kind of take a step back and kind of look at the whole person.
Yeah.
More so than just looking at the gap.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, there's so many variables in terms of if people ask about like, how do I know if I have diastasis? Seriously, the most simple thing is just do a self check. You can literally lie down here and just do it. That would give you a definitive answer on like, actually, okay, you do have it or you don't, right? Or like you can feel like maybe how wide. So exactly. So that's great. Good. I'm glad you brought out those issues, and everybody is different, and that's why our postpartum bodies are so unique to us. It's just hard for people to do the same thing and expect the same results.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now onto this topic. So now you have this person in front of you. I came over here to you. Okay, you check me now. Okay, Becky, you do have. Okay, this is okay. I'll let you go ahead. But like, what's next for that person, or what would you typically recommend to that mom now that you realize, okay, she does have some form of diastasis? What would be the next for her to start healing?
Okay, well, knowing that, like you said, it's so individual, right? Once we've kind of teased
maybe we can give out an example of somebody then.
So I would say, let's say a person is coming in and they are very, very unhappy and displeased with how they look. Their abdomen is bulging out. They've lost all of their pregnancy weight. Their stomach is still not where they want it to be.
Yeah.
And so in this case, what I would do is for the most part, do like an assessment of, again, the diastasis itself, but then what is everything else that's going on around it. So let's say this person really isn't looking to lose more weight. And after talking to her a little bit more, she doesn't seem to be experiencing digestive issues.
Okay.
But she does have some loose skin, and, you know, the abdomen kind of looks like it's sort of hanging down a bit, and she feels really weak. So in this scenario, the place to start is just kind of from the beginning. In this case, what I would do is just start right from the beginning. Let's assume this person hasn't done anything before, and she is very new to this condition and has done just a little bit of research, knows what it is, but didn't take it very much further than that. So what I would do with this person is, find out what she wants. So I could easily go down a path with someone and work on something, only to find out that they don't really want that. They want it for other reasons. So just find out what they want. And if their goal is, I want to have a flat or flatter stomach, which is usually 99% of the reason why people come in or to seek help.
Not to look pregnant, at least.
To not look pregnant. Then what we have to be working on then are exercises that target the abdominal wall. The exercises, depending on her current fitness level, let's just say she's a beginner. Then what I would basically do is start her off on some of the basics. Like, let me see how well you're connecting with your core muscles individually. How well are you connecting with your pelvic floor? How well are you connecting with your transverse abdominis? How well are you connecting with your breath? Doing a brief postural assessment, and working on those things sort of piece by piece, but only just for the purpose of seeing where she's at. If she can already engage and contract her pelvic floor, it's strong enough, she doesn't have any pelvic floor issues, we don't need to spend so much time there. It's kind of like sort of crossed off or checked off the list. Can she engage her TA? So working on some transverse abdominis engagements, how well can she do that? Can she coordinate all of that with her breath and her pelvic floor? So getting that coordinated breath. And then from there, we move on to the next step, is like using that inside of movements, using that inside of exercises that are abdominal specific, in addition to general, mainly because if we're only so focused on abdominal muscles, which I think we need to be to a certain degree, but movement of the body always requires a core. Anything you do requires. So
I always say I always say it's not about what exercise to do, it's how you do the exercise, how you move through the movement, the body, how you use your reconnect or connect with your core muscles.
Exactly. And you could use that as an opportunity. Like any movement you do during the day can be an opportunity to work on your core. So it's less like additional time needed in your day that you have to carve out. You could also incorporate some things in your day to day. So there's that. But then I also find that some people skip over sometimes the specifics. So I would definitely work on strengthening the TA muscle, which tends to work with all the abdominal muscles, but there are ways we can kind of focus in on it and help it a little bit more. So working on that drawing in strategy, working on doing that inside of different movements, in different exercises, and then just progressing the program of exercises to involve rotation, to involve flexion, so that we then become comprehensive in working on all of the abdominal muscles and not just the TA, not just the inner core, because the whole abdomen was affected, not just the TA. So then progressing into all of the other muscles, and then going beyond that, just making sure we're keeping up with where they're at in terms of strength, because usually progressions can happen quite quickly once they pick it up, and they no longer need to think about all the nitty-gritty details on how to breathe, and we can kind of focus on something else. Okay, now let's just get you to do this exercise and just do it. Let's see how your body naturally does it without.
Don't be afraid to do more, right?
Right, exactly. So always keeping up with them and just progress until they're, and always doing things that are challenging for them. So there's like a continuum or like a path that
Yep.
they often take, assuming that they've done nothing at all. If they
Yeah.
have already done something for it, and then they're coming in because they haven't seen results,
Mm-hmm.
then it's about investigating, okay, what have you done? What have you been spending your time on? So those are things that we would have to kind of look into a little bit deeper. Possibly they have been, like you said, they've been doing exercises, but the how, like how they've been doing it, it hasn't been, they haven't been done in a way that really bias or like selectively work certain muscles that we know can help, or they haven't been doing them hard enough, or they haven't been doing exercises for a long enough period of time, or it may not be an exercise thing at all. It might be they are just very, very stressed out, have lack of time,
Mm.
and just their eating habits, their sleeping habits,
Mm-hmm.
their stress management habits, they're not even on the priority list in where they're at in their life, which can all affect healing of tissues too. So like
Yeah.
it might not even be about exercise. Maybe we need to even go just a little bit further and look deeper into lifestyle instead.
Yeah. It becomes a holistic thing. It's not
Yeah.
just specifically on, okay, what kind of exercises? I'm going to just do that exercises 3 times a day and every day. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but people tend to want to know the exercises because we're all drawn into, okay, give me that exercise, and totally understandable. We need to do the exercise. It is the most important part. Um, what would you say that timeline would be like? You were talking about progressing, reconnecting, connecting, okay, training and challenging. What would you say that timeline, or what are you looking for when you think that, okay, this person is ready to progress, this person is not ready yet? Like, what would that be for you?
Um, it's so that becomes very individualized or
Mm-hmm.
individualistic because
Yeah, so let's just take that mom again. Haven't really done anything, but really no body weights to lose because she has been eating okay, so she lost that weight now. She lost that body weight, but she hasn't really done anything specifically on the diastasis.
yeah,
So now what? Now where do I go from here?
yeah. So I'm just thinking back to people I've been working with, and
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact that some people, it's like on the same day they come in, that we do an assessment, we talk over what they want, what they're hoping to achieve, and it's on the same day when it gets started. I'm looking at their breathing, I look at their pelvic floor, their TA, and their posture, and like everything's kind of checked off very, very quickly because they can do this and they can do that, and even if they haven't had much experience, they just have a good kind of sense of their body. They already know how to use their body, can connect well with it. So like we don't spend time there. And then on the same day, I'm like, okay, well, if you can already do that, can you draw in your abdomen and hold it there when you're and fully hold it in fully when you're standing? Can you do it when you're sitting? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you do that when you are on your hands and knees? Okay. Can you now do this when you're in a modified plank? What about a full plank? Oh, you're doing really good. Okay, let's
Then you don't have diastasis. Now you can go home.
well, no, but people with diastasis come in
Uh,
and they can progress because they either have just, a natural level of strength, whether they worked on themselves or not. And, you can just progress them along and like, okay, I'm starting you on day one on planks because you've crossed
mm-hmm.
off all these other things. You are doing fabulous. So let's just
Mm-hmm.
start there because that's what they need. But I've also had completely the opposite where it's really, really difficult to engage the pelvic floor specifically to even
Mm.
feel the contraction. So we end up spending a lot of time there.
And when you say a lot of time, how much time do you spend, or like tell them to spend at home?
Well, our visits are typically like weekly. So I would
Mm.
get them to work on it for a week and then reassess afterwards. So every person is so different. That person may go home and work on some TA connecting exercises, and within a week they could come back and everything,
Mm-hmm.
it just something clicked and they got it and they
Mm-hmm.
can do it. But I have also had many people who have worked on TA connecting for a few weeks rather than just a week because it
Mm-hmm.
takes a bit longer. My approach is I don't like to dwell too much on the connecting piece of it.
Yes.
Because of the
Same.
fact that, yeah, and I think it's just because they always have a chance to find it when they're doing exercises that are
That's
even a bit
right.
harder. So they have the opportunity to keep building connection later on. So I tend not to go beyond 2 to 3 weeks for.
And they lose momentum too if they do the same thing over and over again, and they're like, "Oh, is this gonna work? Like I've been doing it for 3 weeks now, right?"
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So I just, you want to keep them moving along because they need to see something is changing, or at least they need to feel like they have done something and it led to some kind of outcome.
Yeah, that's great. So you spend up to several weeks on the pelvic floor, at least that reconnections phase where they can actually kind of pull in that TA or lower abdomen, and then
Maximum, exactly.
do you get them to work on like various positions, or what's your next steps after that reconnections?
Yeah, after reconnecting to the muscles and kind of just demonstrating that they can do it, then we take that and start integrating core exercises. Like, so
Mm.
whatever you would think of as being a core exercise, I try to just break it down into what's the most simple form of it, and then
Uh-huh.
just start it inside of that. And then I would build to the next version of that that's a bit harder, and then harder and harder. So for example,
Right.
one, I've got two exercises that are like my favorite. It's the plank. So in my program, I call it the forward leaning series because I get them to start standing, but then gradually move to a wall and then to a chair or a table and then down onto the ground, modified and then full. And they
Right.
can do their connection, they can do their breath, they can do their TA, drawing in movements all inside of that in different positions. And if they can do in and out of the abdomen in a full plank, like not modified, but full plank, and really draw in until it cannot go any further. That's a very challenging exercise,
Yeah. And that's the
even for
goal,
strong
right?
people. Yeah. So I would go down that path, or I would do the opposite, which I call the backwards leaning series.
Mm-hmm.
So they would start potentially in a chair, and let's just see if they can do all of those things and hold it there as they lean back. And
And that backward is so hard too. Backward was really hard for me.
yes, exactly. It is
Yeah.
hard. It's quite hard. And that then just gets progressed if they can move onto the ground. They can progress to just holding it there. They can progress to going back further. They can progress to lifting a leg up, or they can progress to adding weights and rotating
Uh-huh.
themselves. So, like, it's kind of just the stepping stone. And then in
Yeah.
my mind, I'm taking them further. Like later on, I know where I
Right.
want to be. So,
Yeah. Let's say there are 5 steps in your exercises, or like the goal is to be able to, let's say, do a full plank, right? There are 5 steps to it. If you can do step one and you're feeling great, you're connecting, then let's just go to step two, right? You don't, no point on staying on step one.
no point. You'd get
Yeah.
them to the point where they're working at the level that they need. So that means it has to be hard for them, because
Yeah.
now, like,
Challenging.
we've already checked off and worked on connecting and stuff. We no longer need to focus on that. They're doing well. They've learned how to ride their bike now, so we don't have to go back now and teach them how to use the brakes and how to like balance on. They already know how to do that. So now let's get them
Yeah.
on an incline or like on an uneven terrain. Like they already have the skill. So now that we're in strengthening mode, then what
Yeah.
I do with them is challenge them. I make sure they're getting fatigued. I make sure they're working at that level. So I definitely would go through a series of exercises and progressions and find out which is the one where they're kind of shaking a little bit. It's quite hard for them.
Mm-hmm. Shaking a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, where they're not finding it easy to do, but like it feels like it's going to take some time for them to feel comfortable and for this to just feel at ease with. And then, so what are the things we're looking for? Definitely, we're looking for their ability to control doming.
Mm-hmm.
For me, doming is not a contraindication for exercise, meaning it's not something that when I see it, I say, okay, we got to stop altogether. I play with that a little bit. I see how much doming do you have? Is it really, really hard? Is it a hard dome, which
Mm-hmm.
means quite a bit of pressure pushing on it from underneath? And if so, which is very rare, it's not often to feel that kind of significant doming. It's quite soft most of the time. But if it is in the hard dome scenario, then we play with the movement. We could either work on a different breathing strategy, work on how they're engaging their core, because you're holding their breath because it's so hard and it's actually creating a lot of pressure. Or if we have to, we could make the exercise a little bit easier. So I'm looking for the doming and control over it. I'm looking for how do they feel? Can they control their form? Are they becoming sort of sloppy in how they're moving it, like their technique? Because that could be a sign of weakness. I'm looking for if they have pain when they're doing it, if they have pelvic floor issues coming up, like a feeling of pressure, if they're leaking, and just their sense of ease, like does it feel easy or not? And that all of these sort of put together helps me know, okay, it's time to move on, or this is a good place to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that you brought that up about the domain, the different breathing strategy and engagement. Can we make it easier or can we make it harder? And I think that's the summary of what Munira is talking about. Even with as a physical therapist and me as a fitness trainer, we are trying to tell you there's no really just one exercise and you do it 3 times a day, every day, follow along, whether it is follow along or just 5 reps. It doesn't really matter. What really matters is your individual body. If you can do this, move on. If you cannot do this because you have doming issue and it's a hard dome because your form is not right, where you would do that beside a mirror or maybe have somebody knowing what they're looking for to check for you, and then being able to control your body. I think if you can just pay attention to those while you're exercising, then you can continue to move on or maybe stay there for a little bit longer. You don't have to rush at the same time, right? But at the same time, we encourage you not to be afraid, not to be fearful of doing challenging exercises or even like regular abs exercises.
Exactly.
Yeah. So very good. Thank you for explaining that part, because I think that's kind of what the informations are putting out there is just very not clear. So I'm glad that Munira is all research and science based. I'm telling you guys. so what she's telling you is from paper, and she was telling me before this call, I won't be saying stuff that is not done by research. And so this is really the truth here, how you heal your diastasis. But a lot of people now are wondering, okay, would healing diastasis mean I'm gonna reach my goal? My goal is to have a flat stomach. Okay, I don't need to look like I'm a bikini model, but I want to have a flat stomach. Is that possible? Is that what it is? I just need to close the gap?
Oh my gosh.
So does healing your diastasis recti mean you'll be able to get back into your pre-baby shape with that tummy? And later on in the video, we will also talk about tummy tuck surgery. So if you're interested, please subscribe to my channel and wait for the next episode to come out. It will come out shortly, I'll promise you. And in the meantime, you can take a look at my foundational workout that you can work alongside me for 16 minutes, inserting on your healing journey. All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.